Okay. All right, come on in, Coach.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Here.
Everybody's doing well. Get ready for a very, very talented Penn State team tomorrow. Team that we've obviously seen. This will be the first time that we have seen an opponent a second time. Obviously, a game that was extremely interesting the first go around. Being down 19-4 is not something that you get overly excited about as a coach. But we did settle in and find a way to play better throughout the course of that game. And they got an outstanding player and Jones that is having a phenomenal year. They're a team that's coming off pause. They played their first game yesterday against Purdue. This is a team that utilizes the three-point line a great deal. I think they took 39 of them yesterday. They've got one of the hardest playing guys in the league in Harar, who careered yesterday point-wise, and then also had 14 rebounds with 10 of them coming offensive. So a guy that has got an extremely good motor and a guy that can really get it going at any time from the three-point line, as they have multiple guys who can do that. So it's round two with them. Obviously, you've seen the announcement that the Michigan State game has been put on postponement. I think Tom announced that half hour ago. We met this morning. Obviously, they're still fighting some positives in their program, and for health and safety reasons, it's just the safest thing to do. Anytime you start getting into continued positives, we're gonna have some concern, and we both thought it was in the best interest to just not have that game. So don't know what that means beyond tomorrow night's game, but again, we'll deal with that and have people on that as we can move forward. But again, it's just the nature of COVID basketball, and we'll expect the unexpected and not plan too far ahead and worry about Penn State tomorrow.
Hey, Brad, would you talk about the practice and the meeting that you had at all? You going to tell us something about that?
Yeah, we'll not talk about the meeting, so nobody else needs to ask. But what happens in that locker room will stay there. Those are private. We had a very good practice yesterday, and I think it's nothing that we haven't been talking about, and you guys don't know about it, from the consistency to the continued growth, and we'll see tomorrow if we've addressed some of those things.
Is there anything you can change schematically to help keep Kofi from getting so many from guys jumping on him as soon as he touches the ball?
I don't know. Maybe if I go down and talk to the other coach real nicely and ask him to please not double or triple him, and we're doing a really good job, guys, of a couple things. We're doing a really good job in early offense of finding him. We've got to continue to move a lot of the pieces to make the tags hard. We're doing that. He's just going to find tough sledding, and as tough as can be. And as long as teams approach him that way, and that means that's the ultimate respect. There's no greater compliment than to have multiple guys have to guard you. And, guys got to step up, make shots, and we'll do that.
All right. Thanks.
Coach, do you think you guys will look towards scheduling another opponent on Saturday with the MSU game getting postponed?
Marley, there's a lot of questions up in that. It gets very challenging. We have one non-conference opponent available that we could schedule. What gets challenging in that is testing protocols. We sure don't want to just play a game. To say we played the game and they're not in protocols that we're in, and we put ourselves in harm's way. I don't know yet what the league will do in terms of sliding games or moving games around. And you've got a couple teams on pause right now, and them in Nebraska. So you've got multiple games missed, and we'll see what the league does. So that it gets to be very challenging, and again, it's just really a day by day type scenario.
Right, and who is that opponent that you mentioned?
We don't have one.
Okay.
We don't. I mean, it's when you start talking about league play, and you're talking about a pretty defined window, really, for us. Probably a Thursday through a Monday, Tuesday, and everybody plays on weekends usually. You start reducing that number of possible opponents greatly by having weekends as open dates. So we'll see what happens. We're desperately looking at every option, and we'll see what the Big Ten helps us with as well.
I know you talked about trying to get to the max 27 games. Is there a concern now that you might not get there? I mean, is that still a goal for this program? Oh,
it's a goal. I think you start looking at the reality of the situation. I think every coach in the Big Ten would tell you that, there's a great chance that you don't, and it's a goal, no chance. And we want to play as many as we can play, and we'll look to do that in the safest way that we can do that.
All right, thank you.
Hey, Coach, how frustrating is it that you've now had 3 postponements this season and none of them are because of you? It seems like your team is doing everything right. You talk, with Iowa, who hasn't seen his family, Georgia, who hasn't seen his family, but yet games are still getting postponed. How frustrating is that for your team?
Yeah, and unfortunately, it takes 2 to play, and we can't make too big a deal of that. I think it is what it is. That's a terrible cliche. I hate it. I can't believe I just said that, but it's the truth. And it's the one thing that we have learned is, you show up every day and do your job at 7:30 every morning, and you test, and we do a PCR, and we do a antigen test, and we talk to our guys every single day after practice about doing the right things. And we're doing that, and all we can do, Mark, is literally just keep doing that and pray and hope. My most stressful part of the day is at 7:30 every single morning, and worried about 29 other people, making sure that they have positive tests and that they did the right thing. And we've been doing that for a long, long time.
Thanks, Coach.
Hey, Coach, you mentioned potentially having a really compact Big Ten schedule here down the stretch. How close would you imagine games could be? Would a back-to-back be out of the question? What would you think there?
Derek, I think everything's going to be on the table at some point. I think I think the one thing that we have seen is once a team tests positive, we've seen that 4 to 7 to 10 day window, multiple positives happen after that. And I just think that it's with multiple positives mean multiple delays. We've got the 17-day out for the guys who are positive. So I think you start to see multiple games add up pretty quickly. And I think you could see a variety of things. I think what we look at is potentially our conference schedule now. I don't know, what's today? I don't even know. The 18th, 19th. May not look anything like this in a week to 10 days.
To ask one on the team, Adams played well here recently. A lot of his opportunities in the offense are catch and shoot. Do you want to see him do more with the ball in his hands or attacking the basket?
Yeah, it's a big part of what we all try to do. And again, that's one of the biggest challenges that freshmen have, is figuring out, hey, I got to the rim all the time in high school and finished. And I went up against if I went up against a 6'6" guy, it was a big guy. Now that's a different deal. So you're figuring that out. And the scouting report becomes very dialed into right hands, left hands, strengths, But yeah, absolutely. We've never told Adam not to drive it. It's a big part of his game. He had a lot of success with it in the first game with Penn State.
Thanks.
Hey, Coach, I know you've talked about the schedule, but would you be opposed to maybe some of the coaches have talked about canceling the Big Ten tournament and make up some of those games? Would that be an option? Is that something that you'd like to do?
We haven't had any conversations to mind that I've been a part of about doing that. To me, I think that's not the most likely thing. I think we've got a lot of partners in that with TV. Again, it's COVID, so who am I to say that anything's for sure? I think that we all went into this as coaches thinking there was a possibility that everybody might not play every game, and what that would look like, and we've kind of expected that. That's why we started meeting in July about all these scenarios and talking about all these things. So now we're not that surprised.
Okay, a quick follow-up. After the Missouri game, you told us the referee kind of gave you the explanation when Kofi allegedly hit the guy in the face. I'm assuming you had a chance to look at the video when Adam was hit. Have you addressed that? Or, okay, I could tell by your face that you have. So can you share your thoughts on that?
I could, but it doesn't do any good. It's such a fine line between different officiating officials and officiating crews, and what deems contact and what deems not, and who's, and again, to say that is a specific rule, a lot of times it can be a judgment, it can be whatever. I know they all go against me. I know that.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, Brad, coming off of 2 straight losses, how important is it tomorrow for you guys to turn this around as you have some tougher games kind of coming up?
We do. Who's tougher than the 2 we've just played? You know something I don't then. I think, Brandon, I think they're all tough. I think we had a 4-game losing streak last year. I think that everybody in this league has ups and downs, and it's a long season, and you run into something that might make you stumble, or you're not playing your best, and that's why we coach, is we try to figure those things out. I think Ohio State's really, really good, and we didn't play very good, but man, I think they're really good, and maybe because none of you guys in the media thought they were great. They're as good a basketball team as we play.
And then Andre played a little bit less on Saturday. Was that kind of a matchup thing? And what do you kind of need to see from him going forward?
Yeah, it was more just a matchup. Trent had hit a couple, and we played some different combinations in there, but Adam was playing great at both ends of the court. And again, that's the luxury of having a lot of good players, is sometimes, there's been games where Adam hasn't played as much and Carvelo's played more, or Trent hasn't played as much. So, it's what we need to dial up for that game.
Thanks, Brad.
Brad, I keep going back to what you said after the loss on Saturday, and the one conclusion I drew was Brad can't do this for him. And I guess is the message that the guys in the uniform have to figure this one out on their own and just figure out how to figure this out? Is that more or less the message, that you guys have got to figure this out before it gets any better?
Yeah, well, and I think there's defining moments in every season. Everybody has those, and I think that it's my job to help identify some of those potential stumbling blocks and roadblocks. You don't achieve greatness without having a roadblock or two, or a speed bump. And, you don't have, nobody knows what these young people are thinking. They're basically locked up all day, and so it is very different, and we're addressing a lot of different things. And I think the one thing that we're trying to continually help them with is understanding that we can't continually get 15 points down and then fight like the best, maybe one of the best teams in the country when we do that. And that's ultimately what we're trying to help them eliminate. But yeah, there's got to be some purpose for the way we go about doing our job every single day.
And I know that everything is different this year because of COVID and everything that's just quite honestly different. But is there any similarities to to last year after the loss at Michigan State, when you guys finally put it together and started to make a run and started to play a little differently and play better?
Well, I think that every team has its own identity. This one obviously is different than last year's, and the pieces are different. I think that we've got a great locker room who's very passionate about being successful and reaching their potential, and I think that's the same as last year. And I think sometimes that you hit a valley, you hit a little bit of a valley, you hit a lull. I'm going to use that word. And you've got to remember what your purpose is, and remember again what our main goal is and what our main objective is, and get refocused on that. And again, we've had 2 games here that teams have played better than us, and that's something that we've got to address. We have, and we'll see if tomorrow helps.
Thanks, Brad.
Brad, when looking back at the Ohio State game, were there an area or two that would have been easily fixed, maybe from an execution standpoint, if the energy, effort, toughness, whatever it may be, was where maybe it needed to be?
Well, I think the one thing that we're trying to understand is one, they played very, very well. Okay. I mean, you're looking at, EJ makes 4 threes. He made, I think, 3 coming into the year. He's hitting step back threes over a contested 7-footer's hand. We let him get going early. I didn't like necessarily our ball screen coverage in that game. Wasn't great. But again, there was good looks in the first half. I thought we took a few of them, 18, 19 on the clock, instead of understanding that we got it back to 15 all, and we'd done that with great patience and ball movement, and we got the ball where we wanted. There's 2 possessions. Kofi kicks it out. We make the extra pass, get wide open threes, and we fell out of love with that. And we took a few quick shots, but no, I think you give Ohio State a ton of credit. And again, they, we can't have our offense be the dictator to our defense. And I always go back, and I mentioned this with our team. Why were we slapping the floor and being all enthusiastic when we were in the second half of the Northwestern game and everything was going great? None of y'all have seen that in the last 2 games, nor have I. And it can't be just about that. We have to enjoy the moment of competing, and we've got to get back to that.
Then just playing an opponent for the second time this season, just in general, how much do you use that first game as maybe a starting point for a game plan, and how does maybe that change where Penn State didn't play for 2.5 weeks because they were in COVID?
It's different. It's different because usually we'll go back and we usually look at their last 5 games, and we dive into those, and then we'll take tidbits because that through the course of a season, you'd be amazed at how much teams change. And Penn State hasn't played a lot since we played them last, so we are relying a little bit on our last game with them. They have shown a tendency to play a lot more zone. They have shown a tendency to double the post. since our game. So, you know, those are two changes they have made, but, you know, again, it's COVID. So when you don't play for 2.5 weeks, you get a lot of practice time and you can work on a lot of things.
Thank you.
Hey, Brad, I wanted to clarify something from earlier. It sounded like you said you had a non-conference opponent maybe waiting if it came down to that. Did I hear that right? Or
Oh, we're contact. We have an open slot because of it. The Tennessee Martin game, so we could slide in very easily a non-conference opponent right now and play that. Do we have one? We do not. You know, and again, that just happened this morning with Tom and Michigan State. So, you know, that search will hence move forward from that point on, today on.
and then I wanted to ask you about Adam. It sounds like he's starting to, you know, bounce back a little bit, coming to his own offensively and really playing pretty well defensively over the course of the last few games. What's that say about him from a maturity standpoint that, you know, being a freshman finds a little adversity and jumps over it?
Yeah, every freshman goes through it. I mean, the only one I haven't seen go through it was Michael Beasley. And you know, but 99.9% of all other freshmen aren't him or a Kevin Durant or a Zion. They're going to go through it. They've got to have adversity. They've got to learn to grow and deal with it. And Adam is extraordinary in this way. None of that bothered him. You all were bothered by it more than him. He understands the process, and he understands he needed to go through that to become great. And that adversity is going to help him understand how to do that. And he is a rock solid kid. He's a terrific student. He's a student of the game. Can't say enough positive about him, and that's why he's ultimately growing into a very, very good Big Ten player as a freshman.
Thanks, Brad.
Hey, Brad, I've heard it said multiple times, this is the best scouted conference in the country. I know the conversation has been largely around effort, motivation, what have you, but what has contributed from scouting is teams know you know other teams though, and, you know, in the middle of the Big Ten conference season now.
Well, I think overall you start looking at number of possessions. You know, you see number of possessions decrease tremendously from your non-league opponents. The game just changes. This league has some very, very gifted defensive-minded coaches, and they're going to scheme you. And they're going to every game, they're going to set in there and take away or try to take away what you do the best. And, you know, you better have counter A and counter B ready. And, you know, so from that standpoint, it becomes then you can have it ready, but now can your players go execute it? Can they make those shots? Can they make those adjustments? And, we can prepare them all we need to in practice, but they have to go out there and then make the plays and execute and make the shots. So, but being in the SEC, being in the Big 12, I haven't seen anything even close like this. And that's not to offend any of the coaches in that league, because there's great ones. But night in and night out, the coaching in this league is fabulous.
So you can maybe anticipate what other scouts, what other preps for a game know about you, what they're going to try and take away. But you can't really suddenly make a weakness a strength. How do you come up with those counters?
Scott, so we try to prepare for everything. Like offensively, we in the fall and early in the season, we prepare our players, our guards, to see every ball screen coverage, whether they go under, whether they hard hedge, whether they switch, whether it's a flat show. So we work on those constantly so they understand the reads. And then we have a package of things that we like to run against a hard hedge, against a flat show, against a switch. And then so we touch on that before. Now they could completely change how they guard something. as we go into the game. But now we've at least practiced it, and we've seen it. We're not getting caught naked, so to speak. So, you know, and to touch on that, so we had a week off, I don't know what, after Indiana. And I told our staff, I said, you're all head coaches, and I need you to self-evaluate us. If you were playing us, how would you play us? And I said, and now I need to see it. Now we need to talk about it. So we get an understanding of, you know, sometimes we just look at our opponents and we don't self-indulge into what our weaknesses are. So we did that, and we understand, and we've made some changes in some areas. And you know, it is a lot more complicated than just rolling the ball out there.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Al.
I have to wrap this up, guys. It's 12:30, so appreciate everyone for being on. A reminder, we'll have Trent after practice. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.